SEDA, Sustainable Energy Development Authority. We have exposed last week on Tuesday, together with Nuriza, that a huge chunk or lion's share of the solar energy quota has been awarded to companies, 12 companies, basically owned by Suzi Suliana, Binte Sidek, Muhammad Sidek, and her husband, as well as 2 other business partners. And Suzi Suliana happens to be the daughter of Tan Sri Muhammad Sidek, the recently retired Chief Secretary of the government, as well as the newly appointed Chairman of Petronas. Now, the combined allocation is huge, it's about 32.4% compared with other established companies like Saipak and Petronas, okay, 9.2% and 7.1% respectively. So after that, what Tan Sri Fong Chan On, who is the chairman of SEDA, responded was that everything was above board because it was done through an online system, and all the companies had met all the necessary technical criteria as well as financial commitments. However, I highlighted that at least 8 out of 12 companies, successful companies, were set up only on 11 November, which is exactly 3 weeks before the application deadline of 2nd December. Okay? And the rest of the companies were set up less than 6 months before the deadline. Now, what is worse is 9 of the above companies have paid up capital of only 100 ringgit. So they are effectively shell companies. Okay? So I asked, very simply, how is it that these companies can pass all the necessary technical criteria and financial commitments? Tan Sri Fong again called for a press conference. Instead of replying to the question as to how they were able to pass all necessary technical criteria and financial commitments, okay, he threatened a lawsuit against me. So threatened to sue me for defamation. And he further added, the lawyers are looking into it. I mean, if you have a company, you registered yesterday and applied today, I can't reject your application, right? That's exactly what he said. And based on the above reply, I'm only more certain than ever that he's completely clueless or he's not telling the truth to the public. Okay, I have with you, I think I've given you all a copy, an 18-page application form. This is the application to apply for feed-in approval for solar photovoltaic more than 72 kWp, which specifically requires 2 things. 1, a site use agreement for the proposed site farm. Okay, site use means because solar energy requires a lot of land space, and a lot of the applicants that apply are actually factories. They have factories, they have lots of space on the roof or on their ground, and that's why they have the ability to apply for this, because they have a site to farm for solar energy. Okay? So you need a site agreement. Now, were they able to produce this site agreement? We don't know. So it is for Tan Sri Fong to be able to enlighten us. Now, this particular site is actually on page 2 of the application form itself. You need to tell them lot number, address, postcodes, and if it is not owned by these companies, then they actually need to provide a site use agreement. That means whoever who is renting them this site must have an agreement with them on the use of this site. Okay? But probably more importantly, okay, is the fact that application requires very specific financing compliance. There is either in the form of conditional letters of approval from entities who will be providing financing to the applicants for the project, or a bank account statement showing a credit balance of at least the total cost of capital for the renewable energy installation, and this will amount to tens of millions. Okay. In addition, even if the project is to be financed, the applicant's bank account statements must show a credit balance of at least 20% of the total capital cost of the renewable energy installation. So this is actually in the form, but the best place to look at it is actually on page 12, 13, 14, where you have a supporting documents checklist. Okay, so the checklists are quite detailed. You have things like engineering design, power system study. Okay, number 4 is the documents providing applicants ownership of the site. or other conditional, unconditional rights that the applicant has to utilize the site. Okay, this is the one I mentioned earlier. And the financing one is actually item number 9. Okay, where it specifically states that if the project requires financing from a bank, financier, please provide the following documents: conditional letters and applicant's bank account statement. And it did say that if the project is self-financed, please provide the following documents as applicable. That is, if it is a company, a bank account statement showing a credit balance of at least the total capital cost of renewable energy installation. So my question is very simple. Can a company that is freshly set up only 3 weeks before application deadline meet all of the above fairly onerous requirements? What is more, a company which is only set up a day before the deadline, as clarified by Tan Sri Fong? It's practically impossible. So he's either talking rubbish or there's something that I'm not getting. Okay, what is worse is the fact that we are not talking about one company securing a small allocation. If it is a small allocation, one factory, never do renewable energy, but because they have a site, fair enough, they get 1 megawatt. What we are seeing here is, in fact, is that the fit-in approval holders have been awarded to 12 different newly set up companies with no track record, no employees. Okay? I'm sure they have no employees because you can check, they probably won't even have EPF statements. Okay? Belonging to the same set of shareholders, taking up 32.4% of the solar energy quota. Of course, it is a mere coincidence that the key shareholder happens to be the daughter of our recently retired Chief Secretary to Government and newly appointed Petronas Chairman. Regardless of whether Tan Sri Fong Chan-on, Tan Sri Dr. Fong Chan-on, or SEDA decides to proceed with the legal suit against me, they both owe an honest explanation to Malaysians as to how these companies were successful with their applications, while many other qualified companies were not able to even secure a single license.
So you're trying to say that based on this application form, it is highly impossible for the company to just set up 3 weeks to have all these necessary
Okay, I wouldn't use the word impossible. Okay, probably use the word implausible, plausible. Okay, I mean, can a party do it? Well, if you stretch the imagination a bit, probably can. But in all likelihood, okay, 12 companies being able to do this, I find that hard to believe lah. Within 3 weeks, can get bank approvals, can get all the money into account, can get all your employees in, can get all your qualified persons. It's for him to prove me wrong lah. And what's probably more important is the fact that Renewable Energy Act specifically prohibits monopolization of these licenses. Okay? It specifically says they want competitive bids for the provision of renewable energy, and they want to avoid monopolization. And what SEDA has effectively done is allowing 1/3 of it to go to the same parties. So, in summary, one sentence is, even if these companies all met the criteria, all somehow miraculously within 3 weeks provided everything that is required in the application form, okay, they still come from the same parties, and why were they all awarded?
MalaysiaKini.com.
Malaysia Kini.
For the Malaysia Kini.